A moment ago, they had no idea who I was. Their eyes skimmed over me from the polished black shoes to the skin they thought didn't belong. One smug gesture, a cold smile, and as if by script, they politely asked me to leave. I didn't argue. I didn't bother explaining who I really was. Why should I? The real show was yet to come. Very soon, they'd realize that this hotel, which they so carefully guarded against me, now belongs to me. Standing at the entrance of a luxurious hotel, I couldn't shake the absurdity of the situation. My suit fit me perfectly. My shoes gleamed like mirrors. And in my pocket lay the key to a world I had already conquered. Wealth, success, recognition. Yet despite all that, a wall had appeared in front of me, not one of stone or glass, but of human prejudice. A narrow perspective that couldn't see past the color of my skin. I felt their eyes on me, evaluating, weighing, and finally branding me. To them, I was just a black man who had clearly walked through the wrong door. In their world, I was an anomaly, a mistake, the one detail that didn't fit into their perfect picture of luxury. This place was supposed to radiate prestige, comfort, and hospitality, yet the air was thick with tension. The staff had already started looking at me like a potential problem. In that moment, when you feel like a stranger in someone else's world, the question isn't about how much money you have, but how long you can endure before something changes. I wasn't angry. What struck me more was how quickly these people judged me by my appearance without even considering who I really was. It didn't bother me. The money I had earned could open any door. But I had already learned that money can only buy what hasn't been poisoned by human prejudice. I didn't need to prove my worth to these people. My story was just beginning. As I walked inside, every step I took on that marble floor felt like a challenge. The spacious lobby, adorned with golden chandeliers, luxurious furniture, and flawless design, was supposed to inspire admiration. But all I felt was a chill, not from the air conditioning but from the people who inhabited this place. Here, luxury intertwined with arrogance. My goal was simple, check in like any other guest. But on my way to the reception desk, I noticed the hotel staff exchanging glances. I approached the desk where the manager stood, a blond man with a rehearsed smile who, without even looking up, already knew what he was going to say. When he finally did look at me, his gaze spoke louder than any words. He scanned me as if seeing everything at once, how impeccably I was dressed and how little it mattered to him. "I'm sorry, but there are no available rooms for you," he said with faint politeness. What surprised me wasn't the rejection itself, but his certainty. He spoke as if he wasn't the one making the decision, as if something larger, a system that had trained him to judge people by their appearance, was speaking through him. In this world, luxury and arrogance went hand in hand, and his words felt like the final act of a play that, for me, had only just begun. I could have said my name, and the situation would have changed instantly. They would have rushed to apologize, offered me the best suite, showered me with compliments. But I chose not to break their little performance. I wanted to see how far they were willing to go. A security guard, a large man with a shaved head, approached me as I still stood by the desk. His face was impassive, but his politeness teetered on the edge of forcefulness. He approached with the kind of insistence that made it clear there was nothing to discuss. "Please leave the hotel," he said, his voice polite but brooking no argument. I looked at him without saying a word. In that moment, I had no desire to argue or prove anything. Their ignorance and arrogance had become a lesson I would remember, but not one that deserved an explanation. I turned and headed for the exit, every step on the marble floor echoing with the inevitability of something yet to come. I knew they had no idea how close they were to their world turning upside down. They only saw in me what they wanted to see. But their world was about to change. A few weeks had passed since the day I left the hotel, avoiding an unnecessary conflict. Back then, I walked away without a word, but not without a plan. During that time, a clear strategy had formed in my mind to reclaim not only my dignity but also control over their world. The irony of life was that I had always been a step ahead of those who were used to judging by appearances. Now, I stood in the same city, in front of the same building, but with a different status. I was no longer just a guest. I was the new owner. As I made my way to the lawyers to sign the purchase documents, I felt a mixture of emotions. Not anger. I had long since learned not to waste energy on that, but rather anticipation. This was the moment when insults turned into strength, when humiliation transformed into an opportunity for power. I wasn't planning to seek revenge through petty pranks or childish antics. No, my goal was more complex: to make them dismantle their own illusions. Their pride would be their undoing. Sitting in the lawyer's office, I couldn't help but smirk as I looked at the papers confirming my ownership of the hotel. The hotel was now mine, and this was only the first step. After signing the documents, I arrived at the hotel with a new objective: to begin my observation. The entire staff continued working, unaware that their world was about to change. To them, I remained invisible. My name had yet to be mentioned in the boardroom, which gave me the freedom to observe them in their natural habitat. The meeting with the hotel's general manager went as expected: formal. He was a confident, somewhat arrogant man who likely believed he had everything under control. "Our staff is stable and professional," he said, a hint of pride in his voice. "We haven't had to let anyone go in a long time, and our turnover rate is minimal." I nodded, maintaining a calm expression, but inside, my certainty was growing. Their world was teetering on the edge of disaster, and they had no idea. I studied each of them: the very same blonde manager who had denied me a room, the security guard who had escorted me out the door. All of these people went about their lives blissfully unaware of the chasm opening beneath them. Should I act immediately, expose them all, and fire them in one sweeping motion? Or should I let them continue to live in their delusion for a while longer, enjoying their false sense of stability? My plan hinged on one thing: patience. The day I decided to begin my little show came unexpectedly. I was walking down the corridor, glancing around the lobby, when I saw him, the manager, the same blonde one. He was engrossed in his work, occasionally glancing up from his papers to review something in a logbook. He didn't notice me. I was standing just a few feet away. But this time, I wasn't invisible. I was the owner of this building, though only I knew it. His face was relaxed, oblivious to the fact that the fate of his job was already in my hands. For a moment, I considered how easy it would be to change everything in that instant. One word, and he'd lose his position. His confidence and comfortable life would crumble. But where's the satisfaction in that? My enjoyment lay in watching them dig their own graves, in seeing how their actions would lead them to their own downfall. I wanted them to realize their mistake. This wasn't revenge, it was justice. Smiling silently, I turned and continued walking. Ahead of me lay much more important steps. Today, I was walking into the same hotel, but it wasn't the same day I left it feeling humiliated. Now, I returned with a sense of complete power. Everything had changed. This hotel was no longer a fortress that had once rejected me. Now, it was my domain, and I was ready to take control. They didn't even know they'd lost.